We just had night one of the High Limit International at the Perth Motorplex, but did High Limit really come to Australia? In this video, we're going to talk about it. So I did see one comment on our socials, and it was pointing out that only one full-time High Limit Series driver actually raced here for the High Limit International. And that full-time driver also runs the series, which is Brad Sweet. Of course, Larson was here too, but he's not a full-timer. He only runs part of the races, and Corey Eliason was the only other full-timer, but we already know in 2025, he's not running the full series. In fact, when you think about it, with Gio Scelzi and Brock Zierfoss here, there's probably more of a World of Outlaws presence for the High Limit International. And yes, we did expect Rico Abreu, a full-time High Limit driver, to be here, and also Carson Macedo, a full-time World of Outlaw driver. So was this really what they expected when they announced that High Limit was coming to Australia? Now, I know all of this probably sounds a bit negative, and when we just had a crowd that I'm told is over 9,000 people, how could I be so critical of this event, right? But really, I'm just trying to raise the question of, hey, was this what they planned when this concept all began, right? But there's a lot of positives, I think, as well. Just like it's a multi-year deal, so we know that they can build on this for years to come. And yes, it's easy to just look at the driver presence and the lack of the American team presence, but at the same time, there were series officials like series director Mike Hess being here, Anthony Carini from the High Limit Timing and Scoring, Brian Walker, who does the social media, and obviously what we see on screen with the commentators with Tony Laporta down on the infield and also Chase Rodman up in the commentary booth. And let's not forget the dash draw and the roll of the dice as well, right? If you ask my honest opinion, I think this event will grow bigger and bigger for years to come, especially with the gap in prize money between this event, which is $100,000 to win on the final night, and the next highest paying events in Australia. There's over a $60,000 gap, right? That's 60% to the next highest paying event. And again, if you ask me, what would I change? In my opinion, when you think about it, maybe a February date would actually work better for this event. Let's not forget that High Limit doesn't start until March now. You've got this event kind of colliding with the Chili Bowl, with some drivers rushing to get back there for the mid-January event. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. Did it feel like a High Limit event or show to watch on the stream? Make sure you comment below. Being here really did feel like one of the most special sprint car racing events that I've ever been to. And speaking with people who have been to the Knoxville Nationals, even Cole Macedo, when the dash draw was on, I spoke to him and he said, man, I feel like I'm at the Knoxville Nationals right now. One thing I've learned with Brad Sweet is that he doesn't really shy away from questions. He's more than happy to answer anything that I ask him. And I went up to him and said, hey, I want to know, is this sort of what you guys had planned when it came up with the High Limit Australia event?
I think we have a lot to learn. It's the first try, and I think, a lot of our drivers have different things going on in the States, and, I think an international event kind of managed by the High Limit personnel and using, kind of like the brand that we're building to manage an event, in a different country. It's supposed to be different, and kind of, it's not supposed to be the High Limit, Kubota High Limit Series at home. So it's supposed to feel a little different. I think when you have Americans in different cars and you have the best Australian drivers, it creates a lot of wild card factors, I guess. So, I think Perth is just such a huge venue and a great venue. Obviously, I would love more of a, more branding around the facility and stuff. And that's just things that we're gonna, take note this year and try to, just keep elevating this event. And I think once the drivers kind of see what we're doing, I think you're going to get more Americans to make this trip year after year. I guess when you have a vision, you're looking at 3 to 5 years. And so when you do the first year, you just have to obviously see if it's going to work for the track and for the series. And then you have to learn, how do we grow this thing and make this an unbelievable experience for the fans, and obviously the racers. We need the racers to want to come to Perth. It's a long way from a lot of different places. It's the most isolated city in the world. So the fact that the fans are here, and you can tell that the Perth staff's excited, but they're not used to people coming in and encroaching on their territory either. So I think everybody's just trying to find that cadence and balance that works for everybody, and so far they've been super accommodating. I think everybody's excited about the event. You can feel the atmosphere. The crowd on night one's bigger than any of us probably would have anticipated. So those are the positives. And then, I think there's a few things that we, just getting done with our season and the planning phase, just it being so far away, like we just got to be a little bit more prepared next year to keep elevating the event.
All right, let's get into the event a little bit here. We arrived right at midday and there was not a cloud in the sky. Honestly, perfect conditions. The crowd rolled in really early. We noticed that there was people lining up before 1 p.m. over in the pits, and we were told that there was even people lined up as early as 7 a.m. in the morning. The rigs rolled in quite early and you could really feel a vibe building really early on, and by 2:30, in my opinion, it felt like we were at the classic fan day. The place was getting very, very busy. It feels like a long time ago now, but I actually helped unload Brock Zierfoss's car when that first arrived. Jason Pride, who normally drives the number 14 car, decided to not race himself and instead just focus on the other car, which is the 1K of Kyle Larson, who arrived just yesterday on the 27th and got fitted in the car. There were people waiting pretty much straight away to get Kyle's autograph and to get his merchandise. Our stall was actually right next to his on the lane next to it. And yes, we do have merchandise here. We met a lot of fans and I made sure to ask a lot of them to send the photos through. So here they are. A couple of things that we didn't mention in yesterday's video, or actually it was today's video, but seems like yesterday anyway. There's a big screen in the pits now with chairs. Last time we saw the same sort of thing, but a smaller screen at the Australian title when it was here in Perth. And the old big screen for the track that used to be over in turn number 2 is actually on the opposite side now in turn number 4, facing the pits. Sean Caron, who Brock Zierfoss drives for, showed me inside his new rig, which is actually the old East Coast Pipeline racing rig. And on the doors that go into the toolbox area has a tribute of cars lettered on there, which is pretty neat to see. He's actually sent me through this picture here, which is his home museum of cars, which is truly special. And for the last few years, he's been trying to get me there, and hopefully I can go there really soon. I caught up with Cole Macedo. This is his first race of the USA vs WA Speed Week, and he's driving the number 7 car for Trent Pigden. And he also gave me a scoop that I could put out, and that is that he'll be driving the Sean Dyson Motorsports number 99 car on the East Coast, starting in Sydney, and then he'll go down south and finish up at the Classic. Moving on to the infield, and I caught the cable cam operators. We spoke about that in our most previous video, and it was cool to see them complete with the Bunnings hat as well. Kyle Larson, his first laps around the racetrack, and he went quickest in his hot lap group. Jock Goodyear didn't have a great night at all, starting off with qualifying, and he just was not fast, and his team and himself just didn't look happy. It looked like Oldfield was going to go quick time, but it ended up being Cole Macedo that went out fastest. Kingshot was third, and I made sure to capture some pictures of his helmet, which I actually caught some later on when Ryan Cricky showed me his Wilson Brewing helmet later on in the pits. That thing is absolutely beautiful, and I wish more drivers put more effort into their lids. Yes, they do get damaged with rocks and stuff like that, but it's still worthwhile. For the heat races, I decided to move around a little bit, and this drone shot made me, I'm gonna be honest, made me cry a little bit. I'm so happy to see such a vibe at a venue. It was so busy and packed everywhere, and it just looked like everyone was truly enjoying what sprint car racing is. As I rushed to get out for the dash draw, I ran into series director Mike Hess, and I figured that was a pretty good opportunity to get his thoughts on the event so far.
I generally have fun when I work. I mean, if the night's going smooth, and you see some good racing in the heats, it's hard not to have some fun. It's one of the nicest facilities in the world. You know, they went top notch and have everything lined out great at this facility, and Western Australia is lucky to have it, because you just don't see this. You don't see these types of tracks in the States even. So pretty lucky on this side of the country to have it and have a big show come, and hopefully the racing keeps going on like some of them heat races were. I feel like the drivers that have been to the States kind of warned them, like, hey, he just tells you how it is and you go, and they've all been great. I just talked to the guys at the dash draw beforehand, and they was like, no, James McFadden just said, no, just listen to the radio. He'll tell you exactly what he needs. And as long as you're there and you do that, you'll never hear from him. So they've all been good and putting on good racing. And I think once like tomorrow night will be easier, because they kind of know a little more what I'm looking for, and on we go. I'm sure I'll be back next year, but yeah, I'm ready to come back.
The B main was out not long after. And again, Jock Goodyear just didn't look fast. He just had no forward drive really all night. So I'd say those guys are going to go back to the drawing board and make some changes for the next couple of nights. I had to laugh when Matt Nolte said he was shaking after interviewing Kyle Larson for the coverage. Just goes to show that we're all race fans at heart, right? The feature pushed off at 9:18 local time. That's when I ran into Coney, their remote controlled start line cone. Brad Shearer, the Knoxville track curator that we spoke about in our previous video, was all smiles ahead of the feature, just like track commentator Chris Mitchell. The only wreck of the entire feature was Ryan Newton, and he wrecked with about 8 laps to go. The track crew told me that maybe he ran over a Nerf bar, but I'm not quite too sure, but he shredded the right rear and he brought out the red lights. On the restart, it was McFadden leading Callum, Brad Sweet, and Macedo had faded to 4th. It's funny how we get used to watching quality drivers drive quality races, but to set a pace and push as hard as what McFadden did out front in the lead to win, that is truly special to watch. There actually was a yellow at the very end of the feature race, and that was for 4th place running Dane Kingshot, who lost 4th to Kyle Larson right at the end. He got into the wall in turn 4 and unfortunately stopped into turn 1, but obviously finished the race, so not too bad, but not ideal for points. Larson ended up getting hard charger after coming from 12th. I caught an interview with winning team owner Sheldon Brady after the feature race, who was pretty pumped up. I love this shot of him walking off with a winner's check. I didn't actually quite catch it, but just as he ran off after talking to me, he held the check in the air, waving it around. He was pretty stoked. At the same time, straight after the feature race, the track crew was reworking for tomorrow night, as they are still doing and ruining our video by making so much noise in the background. Sheldon told me in the interview that this was the first win for both Kim and his son Dylan as a team together. Dylan is one of the world's top sprint car racing crew chiefs, and he runs the Roth 83 car for Buddy Kofoid on the World of Outlaw Tour. Along with James McFadden, not a bad team, right? I also caught these shots of Brad Sweet. Who's next to him? Well, that's his new crew chief, Ty Wolfgang. Ty has been on Brad's crew for a number of years, but will move into the crew chief role from the 2025 season. It's a 3-night show, so that means there's a quick turnaround for teams. Fans may think teams are rude for not being more accommodating when it comes to sticking around for autographs and things like that, but it's crucial they get everything washed up and get the maintenance done ahead of the next couple of nights of racing. All right, that's it for night 1 of the High Limit International. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this insight. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on our socials on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X if you want to call it that. And if you haven't already, make sure you go to sprinkerhub.com to grab your merchandise. I can't do it with a crowd. That's why I'm waiting for these to kind of go by a bit.
Shut up! Shut up! Fuck.